Okay, so I have a question for Christians, and this is not hate. So the first question that I have is everyone says that God is perfect, all this stuff, right? But how can a perfect being have wants? Like, he wants us to love him. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that doesn't make any sense because a perfect being wouldn't have wants or needs or anything like that.
All right, so yes, God is in fact a perfect being. There is no sin. Sin cannot abide with God. God is in fact a perfect, holy, and righteous being. That fact aside, the fact that the being that created the universe, okay, and everything within the universe has a desire, a deep desire to know his creation speaks volumes, okay? I want you to imagine something. I want you to imagine that you have a child. And I have children, I have 4 beautiful children. There is not a need within me for my kids to like me, okay? Or to desire themselves to be around me, okay? But I have a desire within me. If I'm a good, loving parent, I have a deep-seated desire within me that longs for my children who are a part of me to want to be around me, to want to commune with me. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And it's the same if you have a spouse or, a boyfriend or girlfriend or even a pet. People have pets and they really, really love their pets, and they have that deep-seated desire within them that they want that affectionate return from whatever it is, whether it's a child or a spouse or a pet, what have you. We have that desire within us to have those things that we care deeply about reciprocate that back to us. Well, that's what we're talking about with God. God doesn't need, quote unquote, need anything at all from us. There's nothing that we can give God that he does not already have, okay? What we need is a totally different story. But God has a desire. It's not just that he wants. Yes, God is a very perfect, holy, and righteous being, but he has a deep-seated desire to know us and have us commune with him. That's why he created us, so that we can, in fact, be with him.
Another thing is, I think that God is the light and the dark. I think that he's very even.
1 John 1:5. This is the message we have heard from him and declare to you. God is light. In him there is no darkness at all.
And I say this because of the things that are said about him in the Bible, like all the people that he unalives, all the people that he makes jealous, people that he makes do things and stuff like that.
All right, I think what you're referring to here is where in the Old Testament, God is a jealous God. You kind of worded it in that God makes people jealous and then unalives. I'm not real sure, so I'm going to guess here that you meant that God is a jealous God, and in doing so, he had people unalived. So, as we read in the Old Testament, God was in a covenant relationship with the nation of Israel. Outside of that, there were other nations that were practicing and worshiping other false gods instead of worshiping the one true God of the Bible, okay? So yes, in being in that covenant relationship, God was very and is a very jealous God. In doing so, we read that there were times when God would instruct the leaders at that time going into certain battles or certain things, that he would instruct them to go in and unalive people. We tend to look at that with our human eyes, with our 21st century eyes, if you will, with our 21st century hearts. We don't know, and we can't know the mind of God. We never will. God created mankind, and this goes back to God created man to love him, okay? And in doing so, God is, in fact, a very jealous God. And God is very protective of what he created. And at that time, for whatever reasons were in his purview, God did, in fact, put out the order, as it will, for the unaliving of other tribes, as it were, or other nations at that time. Because those nations were practicing and doing things and worshiping things that were honestly horrifying. Okay? So hopefully that's what you were referring to.
Also, because I'd say he's a little bit evil because he created the evil.
Okay, God did not create evil, and we're going to get to that.
He knew that the evil was going to be evil, and he created it so that we would suffer.
Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit.
You can say that it's free will all you want, but he knew that it was going to turn into free will. Like, he knew that Adam was going to eat that apple. He did. He knew. And he knew that that exact environment was going to make him eat that apple.
Guess what? I'm going to say two words that you specifically asked me not to say, but not yet. What I want to go back to is in the first question, okay, the first thing that we talked about, and that is God's desire for us to know him. I want you to also imagine again, okay? Imagine that you create something, a robot, okay? And you were able to give this robot this robot could be sentient. It could think, it could feel. Essentially, it had a soul, okay? I know that robots never will. They don't possess what we as humans possess, but just for a moment, use your imagination and picture that you're able to create something that could have these attributes, okay? It could feel, it could just act like we do. Imagine that you create that, and then you commanded that thing which you created to love you, to respect you. If that were the case, how would you in fact know that what you created did in fact love you? The only possible way that you could know for sure that the thing that you created loves you, adores you, and wants to be a part of your life is if you give it, wait for it, free will. And as much as we don't want to hear that, that is the linchpin of everything that has transpired since God created. You see, when God decided to create even the angels, he knew that he was creating beings, that he couldn't just create them and demand their love to him, their respect of him, because that's not real love. That's not real respect. That's tyrannical. And God is not a tyrannical God. He is a God of love, a God of compassion, a God who is just and forgiving and endlessly patient. He's also a God of free will. And when he created Adam and Eve in the garden, when he created man, he knew exactly what would happen because he had already seen it happen. Because he sees everything. Because time does not exist the same way for God that it does with us. So yes, God knew exactly what was going to happen. But he knew that it had to happen because that's the only way that he knows that we choose him. So he gave Adam and Eve the choice. knowing what would happen. They made the choice. And we can look at that choice and we can say, well, I would have not made that choice. I would have decided to stay in the garden. You don't know that. You will never know that because we were not them. And we are just as sinful and messed up as any human ever has been since then. So, yes, as much as you don't want to hear the word free will, I'm sorry, that's what it all comes down to. It comes down to a God who created and had a desire to love and be loved, but do it in such a way that he's not demanding it, that he's freely receiving it.
He also created Satan, which he knew that Satan was going to be evil. Satan, like, he chooses to do evil acts, but it's not to, like, God created him to do that.
Okay, again, Satan, Lucifer, was not created to be evil. God created him along with the rest of the angels at that time to be with him, okay? Satan, Lucifer, made that decision all on his own because of, wait for it, free will.
Also, another thing is that, like, he knows that some people are never going to be able to experience Christianity ever, never even going to hear of the religion because of where they live or where they come from.
Matthew 24, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come.
There's also even this tribe where they just don't even interact with civilization. Those kind of people that will never be able to experience Christianity, like, ever. I think that that's kind of cruel too, to, like, separate them from him because they will never even be able to know him.
All nations, okay? When Jesus said this, he didn't just mean the main continents or the main countries. When he said all nations, he was talking about the small little tribes on remote Papua New Guinea, the little places along the Amazon. All nations means all of the earth, everywhere. The gospel will be preached to all nations. Now, there are many missionaries over the years who have given literally their lives to see that the gospel of Jesus Christ gets to these people. There have been stories where missionaries go into tribes that are so remote, nobody would have ever thought that anyone could live and exist in these places, and yet they find them, and missionaries go there to preach the gospel, even with the language barriers. And that is where we see God working miracles still to this day, in that they're able to get the message through to these people. There have been situations where missionaries have gone in and even been killed by tribesmen who didn't know who in the world these people were coming in, saw them as invaders, killed them, and yet the missionaries who survived forgave them and still kept going, still kept ministering to these people, bringing the message of salvation to them, to see these tribes turn to Jesus. So, when Jesus says every nation, he literally means the entirety of the planet will hear the gospel of Jesus Christ before the end.
And that to me is, like, kind of the darkness, or, like, the evil part as well.
All right. 1 John 4, verses 7 and 8. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. There is no evil in God whatsoever.
I still follow God. I have my own answers to that. And yeah, just wanted to know what you guys think about that, because these are pretty deep questions.
Yeah, they were very, very deep questions and very appreciated. I actually appreciate your honesty, because not a lot of people are willing to go there. Not a lot of people are willing to put themselves out there. And the questions that you brought up are questions that everybody, even myself, at some point in time have pondered. And for you to have put those out there shows me, and it also shows God, that your spirit, okay, is searching and longing for that relationship with God. Now, you did state that you follow, quote unquote, you follow God, and I pray that that is in fact true. But I want to suggest to you, okay, and please know that I'm saying this with all the kindness and love that I possibly can, along with everyone else out there. Pick this up, okay? Pick this up, read it. There's a reason why, Bible, basic instructions before leaving earth, okay? The answers are all in here. This is God's holy word, breathed out by God. Yes, many people did work on putting this thing and writing it, but know that God was the one moving the hands that wrote this, okay? It wasn't just a bunch of random guys who decided to write down some stories and compile it all into a manuscript that here it is, a couple of thousand years later. This is a living thing. It is the living word of the God who created the universe. It's his love letter to you, to me, to all of us, okay? So know that the questions that you have are very valid. Seek them out. Seek God out. Any questions that you have, go to the word, okay? Seek and ye shall find, right? Thank you for the questions. Again, I hope that nothing came across as condescending or anything like that. I meant everything that I said in truth and in love, in the Spirit of God, through Jesus Christ our Lord. All right? God bless. Take care. Amen.